And I have to tell you, I'm excited. This is going to be a interesting conversation. But I will say that, folks, those of you that are still with us, you just had an opportunity to connect with Stevie Ray. We're going to have an opportunity this evening to enjoy a jazz concert. We're going to have some networking. We're going to have happy hour. So we haven't started drinking yet, have we, ladies?
Not yet.
Because it's going to get because
it
could be a whole there could be a whole different conversation.
Yeah,
You know, if we
yeah.
get some tequila shots.
Yes, this is true. Oh, wait.
So in the way of introduction, this is going to be a really fun conversation. I have joining me today Brandy and Dee Dee, and they are going to be joining the Edge Radio Network. I am beyond excited for Beyond the Edge, right?
Yes, Beyond the Edge.
Very excited.
So the show is called Beyond the Edge. So Dee Dee, tell us, what is Beyond the Edge?
Beyond the Edge is going to be a show and TV production that's going to bring in information for those that are truly seeking the next step on their journey, their path, about healing mentally, emotionally, financially, physically. We're going to be about finding and bringing to you information and solutions to create the life you want.
Ah, I like that. I like that. Was that pretty? Is there anything you want to add to that, Brandy?
I do. I think the show is going to be very different, and what me and Dee Dee hope to create is something that touches on what a lot of people need. A lot of self-care solutions, a lot of maybe even energy medicine solutions.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the health and wellness industry and energy medicine industry for 25 years. And I've seen and I know so many amazing people who have gifts and talents and skills. And we want to bring that to the show to help people understand that there are not just alternatives, but really amazing ways of taking care of yourself and and healing.
Yes.
Healing your
yes.
body, healing your soul, healing your emotions.
Yes.
We're very excited.
So you gave us a little bit of your resume, which is important to do, because that was the next thing I was going to ask. Give our audience a little bit of your background. So Dee Dee, let's jump over to you for a second.
I've been an active practitioner for healing in the holistic field, along with my faith, probably about 12 years. It was all religious background before, but I've crossed over to, I guess, a clearer side where everything is possible. And so I'm a theta healer, Reiki. I channel archangels, and I do readings.
Well, now that's deep. Now I'm gonna jump right in there, because wait a minute, you can't just say something like that and just expect it to go under the radar.
I was going to let her have the floor.
Well, she
Go ahead,
will.
Brandy.
We've got a little time to unpack this.
Okay.
My question though is this: you were operating in a religious
Yes.
Judeo-Christian
Yes.
paradigm.
Yes.
And then you went from a Judeo-Christian paradigm over to theta healing, holistic. That's some might consider a 180.
Well, it is, unless you truly understand faith
Okay.
and how that works. And what happened for me was I took being called a Christian and just put it like Solomon and put it on the dung heap. And I said, God, if you want me to know something, if you want me to experience you, you need to show up. And he began, when you really get in that space, he shows up, let me just say, or the source, or whatever you want to call God. So it began to be a way that I could express how faith works for people. It wasn't leaving the Christian roots in that aspect. It became understanding what it was to be Jesus in the earth today, to have that faith and the fellowship and the spiritual connections. And there's really, it's boundless potential. And so when you get in that space, you don't separate yourself from Christians. You edify it and you explain how it works.
Wow. So Brandy, some refer to the divine creator as the cause of all causes, some God, Yahweh, Muhammad, Jesus, just many different. When we're dealing with this truth, and we know that obviously there's one source and perhaps many different ways of looking at it, what is the best way to help someone to connect to that spiritual power?
I think it's important to remember that I like to think of it as God, God stands for generator, operator,
Yes.
Wow.
and
Yes.
and that is something that we all have the power to do inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about all those terms you just kind of,
Mhm.
rattle out there, I mean, we express it in so many different ways, but it all comes back to the same thing, that the power that we have inside of us is the same creative nature that made us.
Mm.
I heard you say it earlier, right? We're created in an image, and that image is also inside of, we were operating destroyers, and that's what we how to get back to that. We're doing it. We're really doing it in everything that we do, we say, we express, and there is no way to go. That is the way.
Yeah.
That is the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I come from such a non-judgmental space, Paul. And when Stevie Ray was here earlier, he was saying you're good or you're not, or you're bad,
Right.
And I was thinking that's definitely one way of looking at it. But I think we all have the potential to be both. And it's that balance. It's finding that balance of both inside of us. That's, I think, is really important for people. Anyone can be.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone can be.
Mm.
But we have to have the capacity
Mm.
ourselves. And
Wow. Well, let me give you a little pushback on this here. Okay, so we're seeing a collective consciousness on the planet. Would you all agree with that?
absolutely.
And so I do too. I get a sense of it. So there's a collective consciousness, but this consciousness seems to be, and you just said you don't like labels or judgments, but I have to qualify this
identify.
somehow. There's some malevolence. There's a level of vitriol and judgmentalism, and so we're seeing the spirit of malevolence prevail in many cases over benevolence. We're seeing the destruction of the planet, the destruction of human lives, the exploitation of individuals. What the hell is going on right now, ladies? What is this?
We call it the Great Awakening.
Okay.
We call it the Great Awakening, and we call it that because it's almost as if we had to see how bad it really can get to understand how we're creating and perpetuating. And so when you look outside yourself and say, oh my God, things are falling apart, you also have to look inside and say, why is this happening? Yes. Where is it inside of me that I need to look and understand? And this is what we really want others to get the fever for, right? To look inside yourself. And not just to sit and meditate. Yes, absolutely, that's part of it. But to also look deeply and say, where do I come from? Where do I come from? Where are my roots? Where do I want to go? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to answer your question in not necessarily. I have children. I have 3 children.
Yes.
And we have consequences for our actions.
Yes.
Right. So I make sure that those children understand that we have natural, logical consequences for behaviors. That's what we need to do. Hold people accountable for their behavior, not necessarily say you're bad for doing what you did. And as a mother, I know that in order to embrace the world and change the world, you have to come from a compassionate, nonviolent perspective, or it's not going to.
Yes. Wow, that's true.
Maybe the world is experiencing something, as she mentioned, as the mother. They're that child that's out there touching that fire pan that we've warned them is hot. And then once they get burned, they're going to come look to us, to the ones that are ready to show them how to embrace that nonviolent side, that compassionate side. I'm going to put the ointment on the boo-boo. I'm going to make you heal. I'm going to show you how to heal yourself.
Yes. So you're saying that the healing is really internal.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier, Brandy, about us being creators and us creating our circumstances to a large extent. One of the things that I love, and people like Deepak Chopra talk about this, we are made from the same stuff, that the universe is made from. And within us is, in a sense, that universe. Probably one of the most profound things I've heard recently, and I loved it when I heard it. They were talking about the human body, but they were talking about it from an energetic standpoint, not being a whole individual, but actually a community. And so cellularly, there's trillions of cells, and all of these are energetically connected. And in a sense, they are each sentient beings
Yes.
with individual consciousness that merge this consciousness into what we see in this physiology that we, or this perceived physiology that we have. When in reality, we are energetic based beings, and our thoughts and our consciousness are altering our circumstances externally. Did I lose the room? What do you say? Right?
Yeah,
So do you, I mean, what do you think about that?
I think that we're all interconnected as energetic beings because we feel each other's emotions. We can expand or, help me out with this, Brady. I'm not quite sure how to put it.
Well, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
right, Oscar. This is how I would be able to tell someone some information about someone. They give me a picture,
Yes.
Mhm.
right? So I can I would say I could gather information from a photograph that somebody gives me. I'm looking at the energy, feeling or sensing
Yes.
the energy in that photograph or around a person. They call it sometimes called an aura.
Yeah.
In quantum physics terms, it's called a unified field,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
And so we have this unified field around us, but it's also encompassing everyone and everything on the planet. And we can gather information, emotion, and as we also call it empath.
Mhm.
There's a lot of what we call empaths on the planet right now, and those are people who sense this information. I suspect that in the future we're going to have, meaning we'll be able to sense each other just
Yes. Yes.
know what you're feeling,
Yes. Yes.
and isn't that a beautiful?
Wow. Well, no, that would be wonderful. I remember when I was in fourth grade, I guess I might have been a deep thinker back then, and I didn't even smoke. No, but
Well.
I'm just kidding, guys. Really? So, but I remembered writing a little essay with my teacher, and I heard this great word that I was always loved words, right? And it was called reciprocity.
Yes.
And I remember I made up this whole thing, this little essay about the gas of reciprocity. So whenever someone did something to someone else, they immediately felt what they were trying to do to that other person. And the idea was that it would solve all the ills in the world, because if you felt the same pain that you were trying to inflict on me, then it would stand to reason that you would no longer do that, right? So you mentioned the empaths, and I like to think of myself as being an empath. I do feel, people's emotions at a very sort of, guttural level, but as it pertains to our ability, Brandy, based on what you said, to acquire this capability, are you saying that it is an inherent sort of ability that everyone has? Can it be learned? Can it be acquired?
So on the way here, and I expressed this to her, and so the answer to the question came to me listening to something on the way here. Oz never gave anything to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. So it's there. It's just about realizing the potential that's inside and developing it.
Yes.
So, and again, it could come in the form of teaching someone simply to be compassionate, where they become awake in that empath and that telepathy walk, in the woo-woo field that they've been afraid of.
Yes.
That's not. It's living. It's being that whole person.
Wow.
So the
answer is it's inside of us.
Yes.
Buried in deep metal, then requiring a can opener.
Sometimes. And again, like with the radio show Beyond the Edge, there are people on that edge that are just waiting for such information that they go, oh, I'm going to free fall into that existence.
Yes.
They've been waiting. And here it is. It's you have permission to live your best life authentically and full. And that's what we want to bring that in, answer that solution,
Yes.
help for those people.
Wow. I love that. Now, of course, you know, back in the 70s, we were talking about the age of Aquarius,
Yeah. Oh,
right? Remember that? And
yes.
it was, but that was supposed to be the Great Awakening, the Renaissance, right? That was supposed to be taking place. So, and Brandy, you referred to it now. So, are we now 50 years into this Renaissance? I mean, what happened?
It's been happening. It's been happening. And as I mentioned, the empaths that have been born, some of these children, babies that were born from the 70s on. I was born at 5. I just don't know how old I was, but that's okay.
That's okay.
I got socks older
We're
than
all
that.
right. Yes, people, you know. Go ahead.
And so we're born into it, and we just kind of have it. Some of us, and some of us, yes, we have to work through it. But I
Yes.
believe it's genetic code. Sometimes when we're born, we have things in the genetic code that just kind of come over. Fears from our parents kind of come over, and
Yes.
already understanding. So, you know, those women in the 60s that did all those wonderful psychotropic drugs, and
Yeah.
it kind of passed on to their kids, like
Yeah.
they woke up half awake.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah,
they
yeah.
came into the world half awake.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. You know, that's where it all started.
Well, you know what I think is probably a grand irony about what you're saying, and it as it relates to the 60s and the 70s, they were experimenting a lot with LSD.
Oh, yes.
LSD, in its natural form, you all would probably know, and the audience may or may not know, is ayahuasca,
Yes.
right? So ayahuasca affects the pineal gland, or what we call the third eye. So you're saying that the CIA, which actually introduced LSD, ushered in the age of Aquarius,
Yes, they
right?
did.
That's pretty wild. So based on this idea that we are in this awakening, because I've met young children, and you all may or may not have heard the term indigo. Indigo children, these children that are born with this awakening. Can you give us some insight on what an indigo child is? Because I've met some incredibly insightful kids that are woke, as they say.
I would say my last 2 of my 4 children are in that indigo crystal mix of time ratio to come into the earth. They came in wise, and they're the kind of children that you say, okay, I've got 18 years invested in you, and they said, no, Mama, I got 18 years invested in you. They came to wake us up. They came to finish pushing that final, you know, rub edge and get you polished so you could begin to open the doors for them to change the world. They really are world changers. And they come in, that empath, they come in being able to read people and just know that their vibration is copacetic or not, or and they're healers.
Yes.
Just by being in the space that they're in.
They seem to have a knowing.
They do.
And it's a little eerie. So I'm from Costa Rica, right? And I went back there, and my cousin's daughter, the little girl spoke fluent English and Spanish. And she was incredibly insightful, and she would look at you like an adult, and she'd have this very adult conversation. And I felt that energy in her. And I said to my brother was translating because my Spanish is limited, right? But I said, this little girl is an indigo child. And it was funny because the father was my cousin was a very successful banker. He had lived on a house on a hill. And he was categorically like, oh, that's ridiculous. She's not behaving in school. She's not paying attention. I'm like, that's because the teachers are dumbasses to her.
Yes. Oh, God. Well, and it's funny because I'm recalling a conversation the mayor of Houston asked me. We were at, my daughter was given a day in the city, and all the people were just in awe at her presentation and what she was, you know, given her day for. And they asked me, what did I do to raise her to be the child she is, the young adult? And I'm like, I just got out of her way, you know, because and I kept that space for her to grow. And it was difficult for me even once I woke up, because I was wanting to be that mom that protected from the world and did all those things. But those children come with readiness. They're fearless in a way, you know, and so we have to learn not to be afraid for them and just let them be, because they really know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's very unfortunate. We stunt children's
Oh
growth
gosh.
by creating these perimeters and locking them
Mhm.
into these boxes and these belief systems.
Yes.
If we really gave them the capacity to really understand that they're infinite beings, that they are energetic beings, that they're empaths from the beginning, it would be transformative for the
Mhm.
next generation.
Yeah.
But if you look at mainstream everything, it's programming,
It
and
is.
it's programming a very confined and restricted way of thinking and a way of being.
Yes.
So it's a sad commentary, I think, on our own evolution and where we should be versus where we are. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, religious constructs often are one of the biggest stumbling blocks. So,
This is
yeah,
true. And speaking of that, I always use the reference. You know, when Moses took all the Egyptians out
yes,
of Egypt, what happened before they got to go in the Promised Land? All the people with their old thinking
that's right.
had to die off. All the old confines and limits and bondages that they had been born and raised under had to die off
Right.
before they could
Took
come
40
into
years.
40.
Yeah.
So you're saying the Aquarius was 50. So we're not, you know,
So we're
that's what,
we're,
yeah.
we're going to die, Dee Dee, before this
No,
thing is
it's not. No, because
okay.
you know,
Yeah. No, I completely,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. So
Yeah.
so this has been fascinating. I wanted to give folks a sample of what Beyond the Edge is going to be about with you amazing ladies, Dee Dee DeMaio and Miss
And
Brandy.
Deutsch.
And it is going to be one heck of a conversation, I think, with
Yeah.
you all. This is going to
Yeah.
be exciting to, and so you are going to be premiering November the 18th.
The 18th, and it'll be 11 o'clock.
At 11
At
a.m.
11 a.m.
Folks, mark your calendars. November the 18th, 11 a.m. Beyond the Edge. Thank you, Dee Dee. Thank you,
you.
Brandy, for joining us
Thank
for
you,
this
Oscar.
great
We
conversation.
appreciate the
I love it.
opportunity.
Did you guys enjoy that?
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We are going to be back in just a second with another fine gentleman that I want to introduce you to here on the Edge Radio Network. Back in just a few moments. Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world. And we are back. You are watching the Edge Radio TV network. This is Oscar Hines. And just now we had an amazing conversation with two wonderful ladies, and we are now going to mix it up with a wonderful gentleman. How are you, Mr. Eddie Humphreys? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, we met the other day, and some of what you said really fascinated me, and I wanted to just kind of unpack a little bit of this, but wanted to get your background because it's not a traditional background. I think I'm accurate in saying that. Tell the audience a little bit about sort of your genesis and how things started for you.
Yeah, so I'm actually the youngest and most handsome of 6 children, I like to say. I don't think my 3 sisters and 2 brothers will agree with that. But,
you mentioned modest, right?
Yeah. But, I grew up in athletic, very challenging. My parents always challenged us to be the best that we could be. All of my brothers and sisters, very successful. I've got 5 brothers and sisters who are doctors, and their wives and loved ones are doctors. And I myself at one point studied to be a doctor and realized, I said, you know what, I can't stand in a hospital all day. I need to be moving around. And so I took the gymnastics route. Both of my brothers were gymnasts as well. I followed in their footsteps. My brother Cheney Humphrey was a 1996 Olympian.
Wow.
5-time world championship team member. Pretty much did everything you can do in the sport of gymnastics. And I grew up watching my brothers and sisters, and especially my brother's journey through the Olympics, just learning about faith, learning about a dream, a goal, something that you believe in, and putting your whole heart into that and making that a reality.
Man, you know what I admire so much, and maybe you can give us some insight. I'm a Olympics junkie. When the Olympics come on, I'm all over, especially the summer games. And gymnastics I love. But someone prepares 4 years, and they sometimes are 10 hours a day at this, and they're doing it for a moment in time. Like I think of a track star, for an example, and it could be 15 seconds of his life that he's prepared for 5 years or whatever. What is that like? Give us some insight or perspective on that.
It's an amazing thing because you say it's 4 years they train. Well, really, it's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime.
And
correct.
I've been blessed with the opportunity with my brother being an Olympian, is to be able to have those conversations and actually watch it firsthand as a little guy. My brother's 13 years older than me, so I was 12, 13 years old watching this whole process. And it's just amazing because he will be the first to tell you the competition that he was the least nervous for was actually the Olympic Games. He went through his entire life. When you go through qualifier competitions, nationals, and Olympic trials, that's the big one.
Yes.
And then he finally got over that hump, because before he made that team in 1996, in 1992 he was a shoo-in to make that Olympic team. And World Championships was 7 months before the Olympic Games, and he shattered his foot in England performing a double layout on the floor.
Wow.
And here you have this athlete who is one of the top in the country, a shoo-in to make the Olympic team, and now he's down. And so even between that time, the doctors told him, "You have 7 months. You're not going to be able to walk. There's no way. The Olympic dreams is over." And even in him, it was I have to do this. I can't let this go. I have to stay in the moment and accomplish it. This is something I've dreamed about as a kid. I have to accomplish it. It's got to get done. And so he actually wasn't even able to train, take any landings up into the 1992 Olympic trials, and went out, and when he was competing was the first time that he was doing these things. And even then, he had made that team. The very last event, which is vault, the one that requires the most pounding on a foot, that he had just shattered 7 months prior. Wow. And he went out, and they had put him on that team. The judges actually conferenced, went back, changed the score, and left him 8/100ths of a point, 8/100ths of a tenth short of being an Olympian.
Wow.
So for him, it was moments like that. Because now let's fast forward to 1996 when he did make the team. This is a story that a lot of people don't know about, is in the warm-ups while he's getting ready to make the team, he actually broke his finger.
Wow.
And I remember him telling me about this, and him just thinking all these disappointments, all of these moments that had added up where he felt like he had fallen short, came back into his mind, all of these doubts. And he said, I can either be a victor today, or I can let all these moments overtake me. And in that moment, he chose to be a victor. He popped his finger back in himself to the point where he said, I'm not even going to tell anybody about this because I don't want to bring any attention to it.
Yes.
I have a goal today. My lifelong goal is to be an Olympian, and today that's going to happen. And that's exactly what happened. So, you know, when we talk about those moments, I look at them as all building blocks into when you say you've got your 15 seconds at the Olympics.
Right.
You know, you're not thinking so much about, okay, I've got 15 seconds. If I fall, my country doesn't get a medal. For my brother, in his personal experience in the Olympics, was all of these other moments that added up to make me a champion today.
Wow. Wow. What that and to be an Olympian, and you were right in there with your brother. We hadn't talked about that part yet.
Right.
But that takes an intense focus. Most of us are a little ADD, right? So, I mean, what is there a formula to being that focused on getting to that goal?
You know, everyone has their own formula. You know, really for me, it was faith. It was a belief in God and knowing that there's something bigger than me out there. Being sure of what I hope for, certain of what I can't see. You know, certain of what is not tangibly in front of me. And you know, and that was really the formula for myself, for my brother, for Cheney, for all of my brothers and sisters, even going through medical school and, you know, them accomplishing things, becoming doctors. But, you know, there's just so much focus that comes with it and realizing what your dream is. You know, I think that's what it comes down to, is realizing that you have a goal, you have a dream, and really not letting anything stop you to accomplish that, because along the road, we're going to hit bumps. We're going to hit struggles. We're going to, you know, hit things that are going to try to hold us back, whether it's a walk in your faith, whether it's a journey to the Olympic Games, whether it's becoming a doctor or whatever goal you have in life, and just realizing that these are all steps that are going to make us stronger. We can use them as temptations, or we can use them as tests. And it's just like in school. You take a test so that you can move to the next knowledge level. But if you fail that, guess what? You got to take it again. Or you take summer school again. And it's the same thing in life, and keeping that focus and knowing that this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want for myself. And I have to be willing to make the sacrifices necessary to accomplish those.
So what I'm hearing you say is you've got to be really, really clear on your why and your destination, where you want to end up. That's a huge part of it. So you work with young people now?
I do.
When you see this generation and the children that are around, what do you think is sort of at the heart and soul of getting to them and getting them to accomplish this type of success, this pinnacle of success?
Well, you know, it's an amazing thing, because my youngest right now is 6. My oldest just went off to the University of Florida. She's 18.
You got an 18-year-old? Get out of here, man.
18-year-old. Well, not my own children, but my athletes. I don't have any kids yet. So working on that.
Oh, okay. When you said that, somehow I went into this weird daze like you do not have an 18-year-old child. But anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. Go ahead.
Yeah, I call them my
your
children.
Yes.
And really, you know, I feel like they are my children, because when they're in the gym with me, they're with me more than with their parents. So I have a very big influence on not just who these kids are as athletes, but who they are as people.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm not afraid to mentor them. I'm not afraid to tell them right from wrong. I have a lot of families who are, you know, Christian faith-based family. I'm not afraid to speak the gospel with them and share scripture. You know, I had an athlete last year who came to me. It was her first competition. She had saw some former coaches that she was worried about, and she came to me and she said, nervous, I don't know what to do. I need you to calm me down. Give me a Bible verse. And I said, greater he who is in you than he who's in this world. And she repeated that throughout the competition. Even before she was about to get up and do a bar routine, she actually saluted the judge, and she turned to me and she said, what's my verse again? My verse. And I repeated the verse back to her, and she did one of the greatest routines that she's done.
Wow.
So you just can't be afraid to be a leader, but you also have to be prepared to be a leader. And that's what I'm finding. That's what these athletes want. They want someone who's going to push them to something greater.
There
They
you go.
want someone who is going to challenge them, someone who's going to put hope, faith, and love into them. And you just have to be ready for that responsibility.
Wow, outstanding! Wow, what a great thing to do with these young people. So, how do folks stay connected to you? I wanted you to share part of your story. So, how do they stay connected to you, Eddie?
You mean as far as like
Your social media
or
or follow you or get involved in your training?
Yes. So actually, right now I do a lot on Instagram. I have everything. It's it'll post to Facebook. I really don't use Facebook too much, but really Instagram is where I post to. You can go to Eddie Umphry, last name Umprey. A lot of people throw the H on there.
Yes,
There's
yes.
no H, and that's a whole another awesome story from my grandfather as well too that I can share that too. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. I also have my wife and I just started actually our own club. We have 10 awesome athletes called Grace Gymnastics. We train out of Showcase Gymnastics in Katy, Texas. So that's the easiest way to keep tabs on us.
Awesome, Mr. Eddie Umphry. Thank you for joining us today. Excellent conversation. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by this big, awesome beast of a man that's got the mind of gold. I'll let you guess who it is. We'll be back in just a moment here on the Edge Radio Network. Back in just a moment.
This is former Rocket Robert Reed.
This is Mel Hewitt of Athletes United.
And we want to talk to you about our new program and podcast. We're talking about former athletes who are doing a lot of things in the community.
Various athletes in various sports. Swimming, track, soccer, football, baseball, you name it.
Former and current athletes here in the greater Houston area.
All promoting wellness, health. All promoting that which makes us all better.
Of Edge Radio, truth still matters.
Are you a small business owner concerned about the downturn in the economy? Top business leaders like Mattress Mac and Warren Buffett will tell you that now is the time to promote your business more than ever. People need your services. Your business needs an edge. Learn about special advertising packages for small businesses right here on Edge Radio. Find out more, give us a call at 281-744-0446. That's 281-744-0446. Edge, because truth still matters. The Natural Nation Network is really about taking control of your health physically, spiritually, emotionally, even intellectually, because there's so much out there in misinformation. There's a lot of people now that are suffering from all sorts of diseases that they really wouldn't have to suffer for if they had better information. And that's what we're here to do. Provide information that can save lives.
The mind and the body are totally connected.
Health can be really serious, and sometimes we just have to lighten it up a little bit while we're still providing substantive information. And my sort of mantra on the salsa dance floor is kind of similar. I tell somebody, if you make a mistake twice, it becomes a move. Okay.
Tune into Natural Nation every Tuesday at 11 a.m.
And we are back. This is the Edge Radio TV Network. I am Oscar Hines, your host for the day. And this is the type of show that I love the most because I get to gallivant around with some of the best minds that are here on
I need to
the
leave,
Edge
man.
Radio
Time
Network.
To leave. Time to leave, Oscar.
I'm going to mix it up with the great Mr. Anthony Cudjoe. How are you, my dear brother?
Come on, man. You know I am alive and life is well.
Yes.
Everything's good.
So, man, we know that you've been doing an amazing show on Thursday mornings, Tony Talks.
Yeah. We're trying to, the foundation of what we are trying to accomplish there, Oscar, is human optimization, and I know that's a new thing. A lot of people don't know what that means, but it's about taking that human being and optimizing that person, making sure that they become the fullest that they can become in this lifetime that we're here on this planet, accomplishing the things that you truly desire, living that life that you truly purpose, and giving back to humanity and trying to do the greater good.
Yes.
So that's what I'm all about, man, is trying to make sure that everybody lives to that maximum level.
Yes. Now, so let me ask you, Tony, because this is a conversation we had with some previous guests, but we're living in a centrifuge of vitriol, of malevolence, of dishonesty, of miscommunication.
Yes.
There's all of these things around us, and we're being programmed from this very young age, so to speak, to be in fear. And how can you optimize when you're dealing with all of this pablum?
This chaos.
Pablum is like vomit all over you, right? So how do you deal with that?
Well, it's so wonderful because the brother you had on before, he's a coach and he coaches athletes. And, one thing I've learned is that when you know who you are, no one else can tell you who you are.
Yeah.
When you really know who you are, when you know your power, when you know that you're a creative being, when you know that you understand the laws that are around you. So many people, they don't understand that there's metaphysical laws that are around them that govern every single thing that happens in this world. Every single thing that you manifest has a law to it. It has a metaphysical law. And when you understand those laws and understand that everything is vibration, everything is energy, right? When you start loving yourself and you start being better to yourself and you start trusting yourself and having integrity with yourself on the little things. I mean, just small things like you say you're going to do something and you don't do it.
Yes. Yes.
You know what that does? That slowly starts to build your faith in your ability not to accomplish things.
That's an interesting
It truly does.
reverse way of viewing it.
It truly does. When you start saying you're going to do something, and you don't do it here, I'm going to cut the grass this weekend, you don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to wash my car Sunday, you don't do it. I'm going to call my mama, you don't do it. You start to train yourself to say things and don't do it.
Right.
And when you do that, guess what? You can't manifest anything because action is the critical part, the highest vibration to it.
You're spot on. I mean, there's an admiral that came on, Admiral McRaven. He was the one that caught Osama bin Laden, I think, or set that up. And he was saying that the first thing we should do in the morning is make up our bed. It's the first completed act that we have, and then we set a precedent for the rest of our day because now we create that momentum.
My dad taught me that as well. My dad was 31 years in the military, and I think that is something they teach. The soldiers are not allowed to go out and execute their day until their rack is ready, until everything is clean. When they get up, they have to make the rack. They have to make sure their foot locker is dressed right. You can't go out and do anything until that's taken care of. So I understand that philosophy. And what people really don't understand is, when you go to sleep at night, it's a reset for you. It's a reset emotionally. It's a reset mentally. It's a reset spiritually. And what most people do, Oscar, they wake up and they start their day with the energy of yesterday.
Yeah.
You wake up and you start thinking about all the stuff you have to do or the things you didn't accomplish yesterday, so now you're in that energy. You wake up today thinking about the problems you had yesterday and all the conflicts you had yesterday, so now you're in that energy. So now you're moving forward with your day with yesterday's energy when life is trying to give you a reset.
Yes.
So if you'll just wake up and take 5 minutes before you actually let your feet hit the ground and purpose your day and just say what kind of energy you're going to be in and say what you would like for your day to look like when that day unfolds, I'm telling you 80% of the time, you're going to see what you're looking for.
Yes.
And the other 20% is going to show up later.
Yes, yes, there you go. There you
It's
go.
going to show up later. You know,
There you
there's
go.
two things that happens in this life. It's seed and sowing, you know, reaping and sowing. And we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the metaphysical space before.
Yes.
And they've done research that has established that what we think manifest into the physical or material equivalent, because everything is sort of at a vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that a little bit deeper.
Okay.
When you get up in the morning, you're talking about resetting, right? You're talking about resetting your day. What is the process of because obviously we know the negative voices are coming in. We know that 90% of what we thought about yesterday we're gonna think about today.
Yeah.
How do you change the narrative? How do you change the recording?
Consciousness. Be conscious of your choices and your decisions. So when that, and I have those moments when I wake up, maybe things I didn't take care of before I went to bed, or I start to think about other things that happened the day before. I'll stop and reset myself and say, okay, today is a new day. This is what I want to accomplish today. I'm a powerful creative being today. I've been created by Source, and I have the ability to create whatever I desire. So I sit there for a minute and I meditate on that to get my emotions going, to get my energy going.
Yes.
Because emotions are really the true energy that we have been taught not to pay attention to, when we really should pay attention to those emotions, because those emotions will give you your truth, how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
It'll tell you what your truth is.
Yes.
And so when you understand that and you have that consciousness, and then have a routine. I have a routine every morning. 90% of the time I do hit it. There's other times I don't. But 90% of the time I wake up in the morning, I reset myself while I'm laying in the bed before my feet hit the floor. And then I'll get up and I'll go into my prayer room and meditate. And then I visualize, and I have intent, and I have attention on the day that I'm trying to create and the things that I'm trying to create in my business, in my life, in my marriage, in my friendships, in my community, and the legacy that I'm trying to leave before I leave this planet.
Man.
So I'm real clear on those things. I try to keep my vibration and my energy focused on those things, because we're nothing but human antennas. That's all we are. And our emotions and our mood emit the frequency.
Yes. Yes. Something you said, and I don't want it to go by the radar of this audience listening here. By the way, live studio audience, can we hear you all? Are we here right now? All right. Just making sure folks know we got an audience out here, right? Okay, so you mentioned something that I don't want to fly under the radar.
Okay.
The language of creation is emotion, right? You mentioned that emotion is how you sort of interpret what's going on and how you're going to manifest. Like when you're fearful, you create potentially negative circumstances. When you're optimistic and excited, you shift that change.
Yeah, and you know the thing that's real, I started studying Buddhism, and Buddhism is not a religion. I thought it was a religion, but it's a state of mind. It's a state of being. And the one thing I extracted from that teaching was nothing is good or bad. We label it as such.
Correct.
Okay, there's consequences of your decisions and your choices, and that's it. And some of those consequences may line up with the things you want to accomplish in your life, and some of those consequences may not. But in the moment, you always have choice.
Yes.
Like right now, you know, I have never seen any, I do this exercise to everyone to show them that they do have creative control of their life, and they can control their emotions immediately. Because a lot of people think they have no control over their emotions. But I want you to try something. I want you to smile and try to be mad at the same time.
Can't do it.
Impossible.
Can't do it.
It's absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
So it shows you that you have control over your emotions. So when you're in that dark place, if you can just force yourself to smile and stay there for a minute,
right,
those positive emotions will come to you.
Yes.
And you'll start to feel different about that situation.
Yes.
And you'll start to actually have a different perspective about it. And then you'll start to feel like you have a little bit more control over that situation. And then you'll find that you do.
Yes.
You really do.
Man, you just described neuro-linguistic programming.
NLP, baby.
NLP.
Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Bam!
It's a wonderful thing.
Powerful.
You know, and I tell you, when I finally studied that, I became a better trainer because I was able to get in people's minds.
Right.
Because this thing right here is going to either defeat you or help you to accomplish your goal, just as that brother said, that coach. He deals with Olympic athletes. I mean, that's the highest level, right?
Exactly.
So you have to believe in yourself. And the thing about faith is I want people to understand something. Faith, it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with your belief. What do you believe in? What What don't you believe in?
Yes.
And even what you don't believe in, that's faith.
Yes. Yes.
I don't believe I'm going to be successful in life. I don't believe I'm enough. I don't believe I'm going to create financial freedom. I don't believe I can do this. That's faith.
That's right.
And guess what? Most likely, you're not going to be